Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand, Manchester United's trip to Wolves, and we've got an early preview show for you here. Varane and Donny van de Beek must start this game. Injury to any player is never something to celebrate, but when it happens, and it does open up an opportunity for us to really delve into... Look, I'm sure Solskjaer's absolutely gutted that McTominay is now going to be out for a month or two with a groin injury. This is the news that came out this morning. Scott McTominay has a groin problem and has now gone under surgery. Now, groin issues can be somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks, sometimes longer. But realistically, again, if he's going to recover, you're going to have to give him the time to recover. So we wish McTominay all the best. And to be honest with you, he is not. If I had to pick one player to not be available for 2 months, it wouldn't be McTominay. I'm not going to say it was, but it wouldn't be McTominay. But it is McTominay. And the reality is there's two things in relation to this. One, we've got time to go and buy a holding midfielder, which we should have bloody done anyway. So if we don't buy one, that's abysmal. Two, there is zero excuse not to pick Donny van de Beek now, which we'll talk about in a moment. But we are playing Wolves, and I just want to say at the very start of this video, and it would have been at the start if McTominay's injury hadn't come out, don't sleep on Wolves. I'm actually excited about this game on Sunday, and if we don't win this game on Sunday, we would have 5, or even worse if we lose, 4 points from 9, in a season where we're meant to be challenging for a title, in a season where Solskjaer said the aim was to be in a title race in April. You ain't going to be in a title race at Christmas if we've taken 5 points or 4 points from Wolves, Southampton and Leeds. We must win this game, and this was the kickback from not beating Southampton. Now, people will look at Wolves and say, well, Wolves, you can beat them. They've lost the first 2 games of the season. Did you know that our Wolves played on Tuesday night against Forest in the Carabao Cup? They had 25 shots. I think it was 25 shots. They had 28 shots on goal. 74% possession, and they played half of their first team. Well, Forest are crap in the Championship, so people will say that. Interestingly enough then, their first 2 league games, they've lost 1-0. And in fairness, in both those games, they were a little bit unlucky. They're in a bit of a false position, Wolves. They're better than Southampton. They're arguably better than Leeds. They lost to Spurs. Spurs scored a penalty and got away with a few opportunities. I mean, Traore should have scored one-on-one. They had 25 shots. 25 shots against Spurs, and they lost 1-0. Against Leicester, against Leicester, they had 17 shots. Their problem is they can't put the ball in the back of the net, but they're a professional football side. At some point, they're going to put the ball in the back of the net. And we're going to have to pull in a very convincing performance on Sunday, because David De Gea is going to be busy. They have a lot of shots on goal. They're averaging over 20 shots per goal in each of their first 3 games, average. So look, it's going to be a difficult game. They've got a good team. They've got a new manager. And I'd say again, as we focus in on the midfield, don't sleep on Wolves. They've got a very good squad. They had a bad season last year. They've had a bad start to this season. I can't see Wolves having 0 points after 3 games. It'd be a really false position, which means we won't beat them. But we have to beat them. The big problem, I think, for Wolves is that, for us against Wolves, is the midfield. They still play with a back 5, 3 centre-backs, 2 full-backs. But the midfield, we lost the midfield battle last week. Fred and Matic lost to Ward-Prowse and Romu. And if Ward-Prowse and Romu can beat us, then Neves and Moutinho or Dendoncker can beat us as well. And if you lose the midfield battle, it's very hard to win a game of football. And we saw that last week. So we've got to solve the problems in the midfield. I'm not saying it's... and I want to talk about whether we could play a back 5, because Varane comes straight into the team for me. 100%. Varane comes into the team, and I'm going to talk about the midfield in a minute. But some people think there's a theory that we might be playing a back 5. So let me just go here. If we play a back 5, it's going to be Lindelof and Maguire and Varane. Now, Chelsea do this. Wolves do this. Spurs have done this. But the problem with playing the back 5 is that Solskjaer doesn't know how to play an attacking back 4, let alone an attacking back 5. And if we play a back 5, it becomes a back 5. You'd have Varane, Lindelof, Maguire, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka. But you lose an attacker doing this. Well, he doesn't play one holding midfielder hardly ever anyway. So he'd probably play Matic and Fred with no McTominay. He's never going to drop Pogba. He's never going to drop Bruno, which means he'd have to play Greenwood or Cavani, which means there's no Sancho in this team. So I just can't see it. I just can't see us going to a back 5. And I think that demonstrates why. You lose an attacker to accommodate Lindelof. Well, why the bloody hell have we been playing with a back 4 for most of the 3 years Solskjaer's been here? And why have we bought Varane to go with the back 5? I mean, you could have just gone Lindelof, Bailly and Maguire and not bought Varane. The whole point of Varane is you play with a back four, you push your fullbacks higher up, you push your defensive line higher up, and you push higher up. This is why Varane must start with Maguire and Lindelof must go to the bench. We didn't beat Southampton. We didn't play well against Southampton. There isn't the Leeds excuse now that, oh, you've got to keep Lindelof in because it's unlucky. No, get him out. Put the best team out. Solskjaer got it wrong last week. We spoke about this. He picked a team. It wasn't the winning team. He made changes, but he didn't start Varane and Sancho. And we didn't win. And therefore, that's on the manager. He's got to get his best players on the pitch. He's got to start Varane and Sancho in this game. There are no excuses. Wolves are a tougher team. They're hungry for a win. They're in a false position. And they're going to be up for this game. Manchester United have got to win this game. You've got to put your best players out. There's no room for complacency. He's got to start Varane. He's got to start Sancho. And for me, he's got to start Donny van der Beek. I think that the best midfield combination I've seen over the last 6 months for Manchester United is Matic and Donny. Now, granted, I've only seen it about twice. Wolves at the end of last season, pre-season. But they seem to have a chemistry. They seem to understand what each other's job is. And look, Matic is getting old. And Van der Beek's not been given a chance. But one thing you can say about those two players is that their football intelligence is on a different level to McTominay and Fred. And this is a game we need to win. We need to win this game. And look, I'm furious that Donny van der Beek's not had a minute. I'm furious that we know Scott McTominay's got a groin injury and still he started ahead of Van der Beek. Well, he came on ahead of Van der Beek against Southampton. I mean, what is this level of favouritism? I thought we'd learned from this. I thought we'd learned from overplaying favourites. We saw it with Rashford last year. Own admission, wasn't fit, started games. Bruno, exhausted, started games. McTominay coming off the bench, not fit enough to start the game, but I'll use you for the last 20 minutes when we need a goal instead of Van der Beek. This has to stop, and yet we've seen it again this season. Favouritism with an injured player over an informed player who's a better player. We've got to start using Van der Beek now, but to be honest with you, when I think about that, my confidence is he's going to go with Fred and Matic, isn't he? Or he might put Pogba back in there, which again is... I don't want to see Pogba back in there. I want Pogba in the midfield because that's where he wants to play him. When everybody's fit, he puts Pogba on the bloody left wing. So I don't want to see Pogba coming back in to do a job that Ollie doesn't really want to use him for. Use Van der Beek in this game. And buy a bloody midfielder, of course. Buy a midfielder because McTominay out for 2 months leaves us very weak in the midfield. And we're now going to say that Matic, Fred, Donny and Pogba are the options for the midfield when he doesn't ever really use Pogba there and he never uses Donny, but suddenly they're good enough. Buy a bloody midfielder for God's sake and make sure it's a holding midfielder. I'd be all over a deal for Basuma now, all over it, but I don't think we will. But look, I would play Matic and Donny because ultimately against Wolves we've got to win the midfield battle. We did win the midfield battle against Wolves at the end of last season, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Neves and Moutinho played in that game. So Donny and Matic can do this. I think Donny would relish this opportunity and I think it would get us moving the ball better. I'd love to see Van der Beek and Bruno and Sancho on that right hand side interacting with each other. Quick tempo football. Matic just patrolling. The danger is if you play Matic and Fred, I think we're going to struggle again like we did against Southampton. He can't pick Matic and Fred, so he's got to go with Fred and Donny or Matic and Donny and keep Pogba on the left. If he pulls Pogba into the midfield, that's a disgrace. It really is, because Donny may as well put the transfer request in. It's Donny and Fred or it's Donny and Matic. That's the decision for me. McTominay's injured, he's out. And I think, you know what, my score prediction for this game, my head says this has got a draw written all over it, because I think Wolves averaging 20 shots in 3 games, every game, 20 shots, they're not going to keep doing that for a long time without scoring. And I don't think we're playing very well. And my problem with United is when we have a bad result, we tend to drop heads. But with Varane starting, Sancho starting, Donny starting, that's 3 people hungry and I believe top quality players. So I'm going to say United are going to win this. Wolves are always a problem. Going back to Bruno's debut at Old Trafford, that was a 0-0. We have beaten Wolves under Ollie, but we've had a lot of tight games with them. I'd love to say we'd win 3 or 4-0. I don't think we will. That's not to say we can't, because we have. We beat Leeds and I thought we'd smash Southampton and we didn't. And we didn't smash Southampton because of the midfield. We've got to win the midfield. And if he picks Fred and Matic, I don't think we'll win the midfield battle. And I think it'll be a very tight game. So we have to win. I'm going to go 2-1 because we have to win. In any other circumstance, I think my head says it's a 1-1 draw, which isn't good enough. 5 points from 9 is not a good start to this season and Solskjaer puts himself under massive pressure. 5 points from 9 and unbeaten isn't terrible if you've played Chelsea and Arsenal or City and Liverpool. But 5 points from 9 when you've played Southampton, Wolves and Leeds is crap for a team that wants to challenge for the title. And we must win this game on Sunday. There's pressure on Solskjaer. He must win. And there's pressure on our season because I think everybody knows that Pogba and Bruno are in banging form and Sancho and Varane are fantastic signings and Maguire and Shaw are steady and De Gea's looking good. Wan-Bissaka's looking better. You've got Greenwood looking good. Cavani to come back. We've got Rashford to come back. But the problem is the midfield. And now with McTominay, some people thought McTominay was a problem. I probably did. I was hoping he was going to have a breakthrough season or something, but he's not. He's going to be out for 2 months or a month. We don't want him to rush back with an injury like that anyway. The midfield is the problem, and the midfield is going to be the problem over the next coming weeks and months. Unfortunately, it's the problem a lot quicker than some thought. Some thought we might get through on buzz and vibes for a few weeks, but we're not. That midfield cost us a result against Southampton, and now it's exposed again with McTominay's injury. We need to get in the transfer market, but before then, Donny van de Beek needs his chance on Sunday. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe. We've got the Champions League draw coming up at 5. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.